This is Cruise Control.
Your on-air automotive magazine with co-hosts Fred Staab and Les Jackson. Everything you need to know about new and used cars. Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air. Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin. Because you're on Cruise Control. Cruise Control. Cruise Control.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cruise Control. This is your on-air automotive magazine, and you know us. I'm Les Jackson. The other guy at the microphone is Fred Staab. You, of course, know him, and he's just kind of juggling how many stories we're going to be able to pack into this hour.
Well,
that's just juggling two things, Fred. I can't juggle, sorry.
Well, I can't use my feet. It would be a little bit difficult. But, yeah, we do have a lot to get to, Les. And one of these first stories is something you and I talked about. Used electric vehicle prices are dropping, according to a new study. And we want to know why. And is it the time to buy one if you really want an electric car?
That's a question I'm not sure I would know how to answer, but we're going to talk about it. And Chevy releases the details on the 2025 Tahoe and Suburbans. We'll get as many details as we can. Of course, they never quite tell you everything, but
yeah, we've got a good bit of information on them, and yeah, very popular vehicles. They remain popular, and we'll tell you what's coming up with them. Then we're going to talk tech, how Porsche plans to do away with the starter for weight, and they're actually using blow-by to start engines.
Yes.
Who knew that would be handy?
Very, very technical stuff. I was telling Fred I had to bone up on my stoichiometric equations, so we won't be that technical.
Yeah, but it should be interesting, and who knows? Yeah. It is race car technology that may make it into production cars.
It could.
And then we're going to talk about the future of motoring, and Jennifer Brace, who is Ford's chief futurist, will join us to look at the Ford Trends Report, and we'll tell you how that affects what you might be driving in the future. Is there a Ford in your future? Well, at least this hour there is, yes.
That's right.
So that's a lot to get to. All that and more when we get rolling on this edition of Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Futurism is pretty interesting. I love reading those futurist websites, and I remember being at certain things, 30 years ago where they predicted people will be taking videos and sending them on a small device. And lo and behold,
that's right.
That's your phone.
Yes. I mean, the futurists are most accurate when they're just looking at trends rather than, everybody's going to have a flying car. And
right.
All of this stuff.
Well, we'll talk about the future and some of the present new models here on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson. We will be right back.
Okay.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. I'm Fred Staab, and he is Les Jackson, and you have tuned in to, learn a little bit about what's going on in the automotive industry. If you're buying a new vehicle, maybe you're buying a used vehicle, maybe you want to dip that toe into the world of EVs, but you don't know how to do it. Maybe you say, maybe I'll buy a used EV. So we have the results of a new study from iSeeCars.com, and it says that electric vehicle prices, used electric vehicle prices, are plummeting, basically. Teslas have dropped For the Model X, $21,775. For the Model X, $18,596 for the Model S, and $14,716 for the Model 3. And new electric vehicles take 3 times as long to sell compared to a year ago. Now, you and I have talked about this, Les. It's a big trend, isn't it?
It's a big trend, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. Now, on the good side, sort of, is that the 10 fastest selling new cars are hybrids, which makes sense. If you want to get into something electrified, get a hybrid.
Yeah.
It's a good technology. It's reliable.
It's mature technology, too.
Yeah. And again, the 10 slowest selling used cars are EVs, as Fred just said. So I don't know. Now, Fred, I guess the question I would have for you is, if you had $30,000 in your wallet and you just want to get an electric vehicle, would you buy one, a used one?
Well, the one I would target in on has a specific problem. You'd have to make sure the batteries were replaced, but that would be the Chevy Bolt, which you can get used probably for around $20,000.
I would think.
Which is not, when you figure in incentives, not that much different than buying one new. But this is the end of the run for that at 2023. The current model, we learned this week, it will come back in 2025 only as the EUV, because everything has to be a crossover. We can't have anything that's a hatchback or small car. Not that the EUV is much different than the regular Bolt, but that would be what I would think about. But that has a proviso that it has the new batteries, and could I prove that, and all that. But right now, I would stick with a hybrid if I was buying
I would
something.
too. And also, just buying a used pure electric, you're buying something that the battery is the battery that came in it. And if it's 3 or 4 years old, that battery typically will last maybe 10 years. And then you have to replace it. And some of these EV battery platforms are really expensive, $20,000.
And it's not really made to be replaced. I mean, it's not really built to be replaced, as far as my understanding. It's not like, hey, we pull the battery out of the compartment and put it back in again. I mean, I know some people have done that with Priuses, and it's not terrible. But if this is built into the floor of your vehicle, it's going to be a lot harder to pull apart. Yeah. Let me hit you with some other numbers here from IC Cars. Okay, so year-over-year used car price comparison by segment, according to the IC Cars study, all used cars have gone down about 5%, 5.1% in their cost. Remember, they were still high from COVID, the supply chain, all that there weren't a lot of vehicles around. EVs have dropped in price 33.7%.
That's more than 5%.
That's more than 5%. Yeah, average price October 22 was $52,821 for used EV. Now it's $34,994. Hybrids have dropped about 9.6%, which is a little higher than the average. But, the good thing about the hybrid, Les, you're not on that battery as much. And
that's right.
Even if the battery fails, you can still use it.
And that EV that dropped 33.7% continues to drop.
Mm-hmm.
Once you own it, it just keeps dropping more.
And we're going to also tell you about some of the slowest selling vehicles in general. The number one is not an EV, but it is the fastest depreciating car you can buy. If you remember, I think it was last week on Cruise Control we talked about that. Anyway, Fred Staab and Les Jackson, we will be right back, so stay tuned. Taking the guest feed off, so
I've never liked the Maseratis.
Yeah.
I've Waparelli, I've driven a few. I mean, they're nice, they're beautiful inside. I just have never liked the brand.
Cruise Control.
Hey, welcome back to Cruise Control. Well, Fred and I are still on the fast-selling used cars, EVs versus regular,
Yep.
and what isn't selling. And hey, it's always a surprise. Some of them aren't, but some of them just never fail to surprise us. We just don't quite understand why they're not selling well or are selling well.
Yeah, this is the ICCarstudy.com study. Number one slowest selling car less is the Maserati Quattroporte. Average day on the market, 137.8. Most cars are on the market 2.8 days. So, wow.
Well, no, I mean, it's 2.8 or almost 3 times the amount.
Oh, 3 times the amount. I
Most
see. X.
cars,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The only ones that are actually 2 or 3 days are things like the Maverick.
The Maverick, the Raptor, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 3 is interesting. It is the Grand Cherokee, Jeep Grand Cherokee. Average days on the market, 93.4. That's a bit of a surprise. That's kind of a bread and butter.
Well, you know what? It's not a surprise for me because my next door neighbor is Secret Service, and she just got her new Secret Service vehicle. It's a Grand Cherokee, and she said the Secret Service bought a whole fleet of them. Obviously, Stellantis made them a really good deal. They never had SUVs before, not for the agents.
Let me do a segue here because here's another vehicle that they like to buy, and that is the Suburban and Tahoe.
Yes. Well,
that is. We have some details on the new 2025 Tahoe and Suburban. Yes, we are well into the 2025 model year. It gets a fresh exterior and interior design. And how large will it go? The 17.7-inch infotainment system, Les.
Oh, man. Well,
yes.
I mean, eventually, you won't be able to sit in the front seat.
I'm just going to mount a 43-inch television on the on the dashboard. What do you think?
That's right. You won't be able to see out. In fact, we're going to cover the windshield now. And be careful driving.
Well, it also gets a more powerful diesel engine. If you haven't driven that in a Suburban, it's pretty darn nice. It really is in the Suburban and Tahoe. You don't even know it's a diesel. I remember reviewing one
quiet.
Not that long ago, and I thought, wow, this is a diesel. Okay. Confidence-inspiring trailering technology and ride and handling refinements. And this is still, I guess, it doesn't have independent rear suspension, does it? I don't think so. I think it's still a straight axle. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to check that.
Yeah. Now, I kind of draw the line when they say it's curb appeal, enhanced curb appeal. Basically, they sort of look the same, and it's just a big SUV. I wouldn't call it stylish. It's just a big SUV.
And
like every other big SUV.
it is a super large SUV. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have pricing on this. I will tell you this: it has some interesting tow with confidence features. Trailer tire health prevents blowouts.
Nice.
Mobile trailing app load rating info. Forward path indication, which helps drivers navigate with their trailer with guidelines on the surround view to indicate the width of the trailer and its path. Boat ramp assist, that's always entertaining. Boat ramp videos. With a checklist and step-by-step instructions to prepare for towing and launching. Trailer navigation, which calculates routes based on trailer size using built-in Google Maps. That's interesting.
And authentic wood decor.
That's good.
Which which surprises me. It's a first for Tahoe and Suburban. They've never had wood trim, and that is really very surprising.
Yeah, it's always been sort of the plastic stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is built exclusively in Arlington plant in Texas. And you can get it with a 5.3 V8. You can get it with a 6.2 V8 or that 3-liter diesel, which actually gives you pretty decent highway. I believe it's not up in the 30s, but it's high 20s, which is good for a big vehicle like this.
Well, for something that large, that's respectable.
You also get Super Cruise, which works real well. It's interesting how they've picked what vehicles to put that in. It was also, or is still available in the Bolt, and it worked. That's the first place I tried it, and I was very impressed with it. But it only works on certain roads, but it will do lane changes and things like that. But it only works on certain roads, so it's not, like you could use it anywhere. But when you
still need to keep your eyes out the windshield.
Oh yeah, I kept my hands on my knees, ready to grab the wheel if
absolutely
if something went strange. But you could put the turn signal indicator on, and it would move you into the lane. It would say checking to see if lane is clear, and that is an interesting feature. Would I use it that often? I don't know. It's like a pilot, I like to hand fly it as opposed to just use the autopilot. So good stuff. Good stuff. But certainly going to be a big popular vehicle for GM, and they will sell a lot of them for sure. Don't you think?
They always do, and there's absolutely no indication that their market won't go up.
Yeah.
They're just very popular. People own one after another.
Now, you're going to put on your science hat here for a second because we want to do a little talking tech before the break, and it involves the concept here is Porsche saying maybe we can get rid of the starter motor on an engine, which is certainly heavy, and that would help with lightweighting. We would make the vehicle lighter, better fuel economy, and that. So how do they propose to do it? They propose to use blow-by from the engine, right, to make the engine easier to start. And this comes from their racing program. They call it a direct start system.
Yes. Now, first, quick blow-by are the gases that get past the piston,
right?
As the engine's running. Now, obviously, there's today's engines are really quite tight. There isn't that much blow-by, but there's always some. And of course, you get rid of it with it's the oldest emission device on cars.
PVC.
PCV. Yeah.
PCV, not.
No.
Sorry. Yes.
PVC is plastic. PCV.
Yeah. It was the first positive crankcase ventilation.
Right.
Yeah. One of the first pieces of anti-pollution gear used.
Yeah.
Yes.
So using that, Porsche has figured out a way to control the combustion's low-by characteristics. So now we're talking about physics and chemistry
Right.
to manage the compression of each cylinder. And you basically can create, in most circumstances, a situation where the engine has basically no resistance to starting.
Okay.
Now, give a quick example. The Duesenberg engines,
Hmm.
going back, were the best engines ever made, certainly for their time period. They were so perfectly balanced that and whenever the engine shut off, that one piston was always up, ready to be
To
in the
fire.
firing stage.
We got to take a
And
break, Les, and we will
got
be
it.
back with more Cruise Control after this. Stay tuned.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson. And we've been joined by a futurist. Talking from the future, Jennifer Brace is Ford's chief futurist. Hello, Jennifer, and welcome to Cruise Control.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. And we have to start off with what is a futurist? It might be self-explanatory to some people, maybe not to others. As we were talking during the break, I said I love reading futurist websites because people are kind of predicting what might be coming down the road.
Yeah, that's right. And I get the question a lot. So I appreciate you asking because I know a lot of people don't know what a futurist is or what we do. So at Ford, what we do, what myself and my team focus on is we pay a lot of attention to trends. What do we see happening around the world? And how might we have more robust strategies for dealing with those as we move forward? The majority of our time is spent outside of automotive, interestingly enough. We are paying attention to what we see in the STEEP categories. So that means social, technological, economic, environmental, and political. You'll notice I didn't say automotive, and that is by design.
That's right.
That's right. So we're paying attention to all those things happening outside of automotive that might come back and impact our business and that might change the environment that we have to operate within, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
That which brings up something. Obviously, you're studying societies not just here in America, but all over the world,
Globally,
and
absolutely.
and it seems to me, anyway, because I'm always staying abreast of the news, that around the world people are kind of leaning the same ways in you know in and and they most people just seem to be unhappy, and I guess you understand that, and you have some reasons for it.
Yeah.
Will we be
Yeah,
unhappy in the
unfortunately.
future? Yes.
Well,
Can you answer that?
Oh,
that's
goodness, you're
we're
right,
not
though.
unhappy.
Unfortunately. Globally, though, the world does feel overwhelmed, burnt out. Absolutely. Those are trends that we see continuing to happen and grow. I think there was this optimism that once we got through COVID, everything would just be better.
Yeah.
But we're still kind of dealing with a lot of stuff, right? There's still a lot happening that makes people feel like they have less stability in their life. And what we see them doing as a result of that is focusing inward, looking to control the things that they have more agency over, which is themselves. So trying to prioritize themselves, recognizing that the world outside is outside of their control. So wanting to focus in on what can they do to make themselves feel more at peace, at ease. How can they focus in on both themselves, the relationships of those around them, and improve kind of their own personal well-being.
So we are talking to Jennifer Brace, who's the Ford chief futurist. One of the big things that your department does at Ford is you build this annual Ford Trends report. And you were talking just a moment ago about people wanting to control things that they can control. And the first thing is prioritizing themselves and health, I guess, well-being.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is people are wanting to invest in me, if you will. So setting personal boundaries, feeling like it's necessary in today's world that is, a bit chaotic outside of their control. Saying that they would prioritize themselves over even things that have been traditional markers of success. So advancements at work, even saying that if it's going to increase my stress, it's just not worth it anymore.
Interesting. Interesting. And I mean, does that play into people wanting to work at home or have a hybrid work job experience? And then when they're pushed to go back to that job, they just say, I'm not going to do it because I just don't want to get on that train every morning.
Right? We've certainly seen it. We've certainly seen people choosing to change professions or not go back into the office, or change a job to not go back. We don't talk about it directly on the site, but absolutely, that's a signal we've seen, particularly here in the U.S. Once people have said, "Hey, I think I can do this job at home. Why are you making me waste time commuting every day?"
Which brings up a big problem because you're gonna have, and that's and what you just said is very true here in Washington D.C. Um, you're going to have less people commuting much, so there are going to be fewer vehicles sold. And the transportation systems are going to be stressed because they don't have enough riders, which is the case here in Washington. Um, what happens? Is there a way to predict that effect, 10 years from now?
So, we try not to do full-on predictions. We try to do kind of a spectrum, if you will, of ways that we see the world could evolve. So we never are a team that would say, this is definitely the direction the future is going to take. Instead, what we say is, hey, here's some things that could happen moving forward. We could see it going this way or that way. We try to understand what the bookends might be. So in this case, right, if we're seeing more people wanting to work from home, the question, of course, just as you brought up, what does it mean for our other transportation systems? What does it mean for the traditional things that we've been doing? So we would look at, okay, how does that impact the commuting if this trend continues? So we would actually look at both sides. We would say, if this trend continues, yes, we might see fewer kind of commuting day-to-day needs. It might change the way that people expect to use their vehicles. Instead of using it on a daily commute to work, they might be doing more road trips. They might be looking to work from different parts of the country, even, having these kind of people we would call digital nomads,
Right.
people that can work from anywhere. And yeah, it does impact the way that our cities would be laid out. It impacts the way that our support systems in terms of that public transportation would be set up. So you could kind of walk down that road, and we do a lot of that. If this, then that, and then you continue to kind of connect those dots moving out. But we would look at both sides, quite frankly, by saying, if this continues, we think this might happen. However, here are things that might disrupt that. Here are things that might change the trajectory that we're seeing now. And if that were to happen, we would also look at the other side, because what we always try to promote internally is that it's not so much about predicting the future, but it's about preparing for it, making sure that we're aware of the things that could happen so that we have plans in place so that we know when to pivot, quite frankly. If we have put all of our eggs in one basket and we start seeing signals that that is no longer the future that is going to happen, we need to be able to pivot quickly. And if we've
A-
thought about it beforehand, we're in a better spot.
And Jennifer, this could even be used in my head to extrapolate, well, how much should the average range of an electric vehicle be?
You're right.
Or how fast should it recharge, because how many chargers will we
Yeah.
need and how many, yeah. So that's kind of how your
Absolutely.
information, as you said, you don't really look per se at automotive trends like are people buying green cars or red cars. You look at big trends that may
Hmm.
affect the automotive industry and what you build in the future, or even down to things like range and how many doors it has or something. And the next on your list of four trends is work and careers, and it looks like people really want quality of life and they'll even take a pay cut to get it.
Yeah, this number actually shocked us on the team. We asked the question, to achieve a lifestyle that prioritizes my quality of life, I would be willing to take a 20% pay cut.
Oh,
And we had 52% of employed people around the world agree with that statement. So more than half of people saying that they would be willing to take a pay cut in order to promote their quality of life,
wow.
which
I,
is big.
big, big. I know a lot of people say they like to work 4 10-hour days. I've heard a lot of
Hmm.
people say, and have a long weekend every week. And do you get that from your friends there, Les, in Washington, that people say they really?
Absolutely. I hear it all the time. I was one of those people all these years. I was always willing to take a lesser paying job for greater free time to do the stuff that was interested in. Uh,
Well, and
so,
we've seen this being tested at companies across the country, and there was a big study done in the UK last year on this, working 4 days in the office and having a 3-day weekend. And yep, employees certainly did love it. And even most of the businesses said that from a productivity perspective, that they were still able to meet their targets. So I've seen it happening in more experimental modes, but so far the data suggests that that it hasn't been as detrimental to productivity as maybe would have been expected. But certainly employees like it.
And once again, that might infect vehicles because people might take some
yeah.
short weekend trips or
That's
3 day
right, more
trips.
road trips.
More road trips. So we are talking with Jennifer Brace, who is Ford's chief futurist, and going through the annual Ford trends. We have a break coming up in a little bit, but we're going to get to a big one on the list, and that is AI, artificial intelligence. Now, I always worked in a technology-based business, and I always felt you can't stop technology. So you might as well learn how to use it, how it works. But some people are very worried about it. So we will talk with Jennifer when we come back from the break about that and some other interesting things on the Ford Trends Report. So stay tuned to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. I'm Fred Staab. He's Les Jackson. She's Jennifer Brace. We'll be right back.
Cruise Control.
Welcome back to Cruise Control. We are taking you into the future. I'm Fred Staab. He is none other than Les Jackson, and we are joined by Jennifer Brace, who is the chief futurist at Ford. She's taking us through this annual Ford Trends Report. Jennifer, if people want to check out the report, where would they go?
Sure, you can find it at fordtrends.com. We've got an interactive website so you can look at the data, and you can even see the way it falls out in different cuts in terms of how does it look different in different countries or maybe in different generational cohorts. So if you're a data nerd like myself, you can play with it there.
All right, all right. And getting into data nerding, artificial intelligence, we just started to talk about before the break. So 39% feel AI will create massive job losses for themselves, yet 68% believe AI will create massive job losses for others. Won't affect me. That's not.
That's right.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds bad for everybody
Hey,
else.
yeah, too
Isn't
bad.
isn't that a bit of putting your head in the sand?
Yeah, this is why, when the data came in and we started to see those numbers, I was excited to actually show it because it is a prime example, right, of it's going to happen to other people, not to me. And now, certainly, I don't want to downplay the fact that almost 40% of people think it's going to impact their own job. That's not a small number. But we have more people thinking it's going to affect the others more than themselves, which shows that, there's a disconnect there for sure. And people might end up being surprised that it might end up having a bigger impact on them than they expected.
And a big group of people say 60% of those you polled say AI will be an essential part of their daily lives by 2035. And as we were saying during the break, it's technology. It would be nice if it could be controlled, but there's kind of no way to stop technology. It's just gonna advance. It's like saying, well,
Yeah.
I don't want a navigation system in my car.
That's right. You can try
Oh,
to avoid it as much as you want, but honestly, this is what we've seen. It continues to grow. Technology always kind of finds a way to evolve and continue. We did see earlier this year, you might recall, several leaders in the technology industry had signed a paper saying we need to stop AI now. It could be dangerous for society. And nothing really came of it, quite frankly. They put out they made a big deal about it, but nothing really happened. We've also seen some work, though, being done in Washington to try to find some ways of kind of creating some guidelines that companies would need to work within from an ethics perspective, and then making it more clear when it is being used. So they're trying to get ahead of it. How they're going to police it, I think, is going to be the bigger question, and much more difficult, as we were talking a little bit off air. It's hard sometimes to tell when it's been used and when it hasn't. And I think that we will continue to see, as the technology gets better, it will be harder and harder to tell what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there may be certain technologies that AI is really good for. Like I would see in another 10 years uh, an AI medical uh, measurement device. You could breathe into it and it could tell you what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Which would
absolutely
be
right.
wonderful.
And we did ask people too, what might you expect to trust AI for in the future? And we did find that people somewhere in the 40% range would be expecting to trust AI to make some health diagnosis for them, whether it be mental or physical. What was interesting, the most interesting part of that, we asked it over several different things about travel, about making small item purchases, even about improving relationships with others. In every instance, men were significantly more likely to trust AI than women, almost 10 percentage points more.
Very interesting. I mean, any reason, any thought for that, or?
It surprised me. Again, I love it when the data surprises me, makes me ask more questions. But what I also looked at, and we asked a question about, do you trust AI? Do you understand AI? And we found that men were more likely to say that they understood it, less likely to say that they were afraid of it. So I think that might be playing into it. And if they feel like they understand it, but more likely to understand it than women are, then they might also be more likely to trust it.
Interesting.
I think it's because men won't ask for directions.
They're like,
That too.
So
There's an anonymity
just
that comes with asking the
exactly.
computer instead of having to go
Okay,
see
the
a
AI,
doctor, right?
blame it on the AI.
yes. So we are running down
There
the
you go.
annual Ford Trends Report with Jennifer Brace, who is Ford's chief futurist. And this info could shape what you're driving in the future, just by the big trends.
Sure will.
So AI, how will it be involved in future Ford vehicles? How much of it will be involved? Will it be involved in manufacturing? Probably. This is an interesting one. Sustainability. Do as I say, not as I do. It seems like that's sort of sort of like the AI situation where people said, well, it will affect that person's job, but not mine.
That's right. Same thing here, where we saw people basically saying that, well, they're expecting other people to maybe drive an EV or a hybrid vehicle, but they themselves are not likely to be doing it at the moment. So we asked, to help fight climate change, people should do what? And one of the options was drive electric vehicles. 47% agreed that people should drive electric vehicles. But when we asked, do you drive an electric vehicle? 4% of people said that they did. So
Yeah,
again, yeah, that's probably good, but the other people should do it. Like, I'm not ready. But that also gives us useful information, right? If we know that 4% of people are saying that they have them, but that 47%, they think that 47% of people should be doing it, then that gives us some indication that they're probably open to an electric vehicle, and we need to understand what it takes to get them there. How can we help them along their journey, if you will, in terms of choosing their next vehicle, and how do we alleviate maybe some of the concerns that come along with the change that would be an electric vehicle.
And then the final category, an important one, parenting in the modern age. This is something that society has been changing. What is the term family? It's not as clear cut as it used to be. And, well, I mean, this is an easy one to agree to. 83% of adults agree that children to be prepared for adulthood and mental health is more important than academic success. And they used to
Yeah,
teach
so we
things like that in school.
Yep.
we're seeing a real shift, right, in some of the traditional markers of success. We see more people questioning marriage, if they want to have marriage or if it's necessary. We see the same thing with having children. But for those who do have children, this was a really high percentage. So 83% saying that, yeah, they want their kids to have better mental health, and saying that that's more important than academic success. Shifting the conversation around, like, what are the real important things that kids need to learn. And I think that goes along with the fact that we also see our younger generations more concerned about mental health, about anxiety, about feelings of loneliness. All of that we see more in our younger generations who are in that family life stage right now. So I feel like it's a reflection of that stage that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah, you said there's a lot of anxiety around in the world right now, and you think about that, Les, how that determines what people buy and what they do, and
Yeah.
um,
It's everything really.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of doom and gloom commercials. You know what's going to happen, so you better buy this. So it's a weird way to market something, but I guess it
Yeah.
works for those companies. I don't know. So
Well,
uh,
one of the points we got last year too was about that, in terms of this kind of carpe diem mindset of the world feels unpredictable, so I'm not going to deprive myself of things today.
yeah,
So
very interesting.
it
Once again,
depends.
go to FordTrends.com to check this out. Jennifer, we'll have to have you back because we like talking about the future. Jennifer Brace, Ford's chief futurist. Thank you very much for being with us. Les Jackson,
My
thank
pleasure.
you very much as always. And it's time for me to say we will see you down the road. Take care.